As a constitutional law attorney, former senior legal advisor, and personal counsel to President Donald J. Trump, Jenna Ellis believes in the rule of law and the importance of integrity in our elections. And she's ready to tackle the big cultural and legal issues facing America. This is the Jenna Ellis Show. Here is your host, Jenna Ellis.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Jenna Ellis Show. I'm Jenna Ellis, and it is still Indictment 2023 watch, which has really been going on since 2015. The left has continued to say, this is when the walls are closing in. We are finally getting Trump, and this is going to be the big one. Well, the jury, the grand jury, is actually dismissed now until at least next week. So whether or not an indictment is actually forthcoming is anyone's guess. Interestingly, the district attorney, Alvin Bragg, through his counsel, sent a letter to Congress, to Jim Jordan's Weaponization Committee, that asked Alvin Bragg to come and answer for his weaponization of government. And that letter is alleging that, hey, this is a regular prosecution. Congress doesn't have any role here. And they also accused Donald Trump of exaggerating his arrest. That's really interesting. And I want all of you to listen to my radio show tomorrow morning on the American Family Radio Network. You can go to afr.net because Pedro Gonzalez, who's a friend of this show, you all remember him from the Trans Leviathan, a few other interviews. He's a great investigative journalist, and he's going to respond to that very accusation and whether or not this was potentially just a fundraising scheme by the Trump campaign. I think it's important to hear from a wide variety of perspectives and actually get to the truth of the matter. Of course, my opinion is that everyone has been out on the left to get Trump, and whether or not an arrest was likely or whether or not Trump knew before this became kind of mainstream media dominating the news cycle as far as a potential arrest. The grand jury has been impaneled, and there has been a grand jury in Fulton County, Georgia. There's a grand jury or multiple ongoing in D.C. So, this isn't just a fundraising mechanism, but at the same time, I have called out the RNC and others for simply having these kinds of tactics where you look at the fundraising email, and if you actually look to where those funds are dispersed, there have been instances where it's like the candidate receives 1 penny on the dollar. So that's going to be a very interesting interview tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern with Pedro Gonzalez on American Family Radio Network. But I want to get to the interview today with my good friend Alan Dershowitz, who's going to be talking specifically about the weaponization of government, but his opinion on whether the actual charges that are potentially forthcoming if there is an indictment, how meritorious they are or they aren't. So we're going to go in detail with that right after this. With inflation, the banking world collapse, and everything that Joe Biden is doing not to protect America, you need to make sure to secure your financial health, especially in retirement. And hey, if you're a millennial like me, that actually is sooner than you think. You need to start now, even if you are a millennial or a Gen Zer, to make sure that your financial health is actually healthy when we get to retirement. And Legacy Precious Metals has a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in gold and silver online in real time. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped right to your door. You'll have access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar, and this puts you in complete control of your money. The platform is free to sign up for. Visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and against a volatile stock market. A truly diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but different asset classes. This brand new platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Visit legacypm.com to get started. You can download the free investor's guide, and you can also call Legacy PM Investments to talk to a portfolio expert to get expert answers to your to customize your personal portfolio. So visit legacypminvestments.com to get started. Tell them that Jenna sent you. Well, here to weigh in with his always brilliant opinions is my good friend Alan Dershowitz, who, of course, was a former professor at Harvard Law. And Alan, good morning. And your thoughts first overall on this entire indictment farce and the tenuous legal case behind Alan Bragg.
Well, I wrote a book called Get Trump, in which I went through all the accusations against him and found none of them to be meritorious. In fact, the name of the book, Get Trump, is based on the campaign promise of the Attorney General of New York, who ran for office, on the promise that if I get elected, I will get Trump. The district attorney also ran on a similar platform. So this is a targeted injustice. This is an attempt to create a crime, to manufacture a crime against somebody who's already been targeted. And that's not the American way of doing justice. And so I think all Americans, Democrats or Republicans, I'm a liberal Democrat. I voted against Trump twice, plan to vote against him a third time. But I care deeply about principles of the Constitution, and those principles demand that this investigation stop now. First, it violates the statute of limitations, which is 2 years for a misdemeanor, 5 years for a felony. All these things happened 6 or 7 years ago. Second, there's no crime here. What happened is it was a settlement of a potential lawsuit by somebody who was extorting Donald Trump. And to turn that into a state felony after federal authorities refused to prosecute and the previous district attorney refused to prosecute is clearly an instance of miscarriage of justice. And so I hope this grand jury has the courage that very few grand juries ever have had, and that is to stand up to the prosecutor and say, no, we're an independent body. You're not going to tell us what to do. We've looked at the evidence, so there's no case here.
And I'm talking with Alan Dershowitz, and this is one of the reasons that I so deeply respect you, because although you and I disagree fundamentally on a lot of issues of politics, a lot of issues of policy, we do agree that principle matters and that due process matters, constitutional protections matter, the rule of law matters, and I wish that more people, frankly, on both sides, would be so principled. And I wish that your fellow Democrats would show that same support for actual due process and the rule of law, and even some Republicans who would love to get their political opponents as well. So what do you think is going on in the grand jury and why we haven't seen deliberations yet as the news was expecting yesterday?
First of all, the district attorney himself has to have second thoughts here. He's heard from Bob Costello, who was Cohen's lawyer, saying you can't believe that guy. He's told us exactly the opposite. And so District Attorney Bragg has to ask himself, am I really going to put Cohen on the witness stand in a trial? Am I going to vouch for this guy's credibility, as a district attorney must do before he puts a witness on? So I think there's some self-doubt by Bragg. I hope there is. And then probably by some staff members in his office. It's a very distinguished office. It used to be headed by very, very prominent people, Robert Morgenthau and Frank Hogan, and it has a tradition. And you would think that some people in the office would not want to see that tradition politicized. They may be calling more witnesses, but they're probably going to try to make the case without using Cohen. That would be the smart thing to do, because Cohen will be a gift to Trump's legal team. They would be able to tear him apart and hurt the credibility of the prosecution if that happens. I go over all of these factors in my book, Get Trump, and I go over all four of the cases against him and find nothing criminal. Look, I don't agree with his speech on January 6th. I don't like the fact that he had classified material, and I don't like the fact that he may have had an affair with a porn star. Those are not things that are part of my value system. On the other hand, none of them are criminal. And you have to draw a sharp line between what you don't like and what the criminal law allows you to prosecute. And these facts don't meet those standards.
So, Alan Dershowitz, let's also talk about then, if this is so politically motivated and the
Attorney General and District Attorney of New York actually have run openly on the fact that they want to get Trump. Why has there not been a coordinated effort to fight back on that front? There is a rule of professional responsibility that governs prosecutors in every state. There is a bar licensure process of discipline that, of course, has been weaponized against all of Trump's lawyers, but we're not seeing the same accountability from these Democrats who have clearly given their motivation in public.
I agree with you completely. There's a corrupt and disgusting organization called Project 65, which is a group of hard-left lawyers who are trying to bring bar complaints against any lawyer who has ever had anything to do with Trump or with anybody who supports Trump. And they even filed a bar charge against me. I did nothing wrong at all. But they're trying to get every possible lawyer in trouble, and they've deterred lawyers. I have lawyers who said to me, we were approached by the Trump team, but we don't want to get in trouble. And so Project 65 has in some ways succeeded in chilling lawyers from activating the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution. And you're absolutely right. On the other side, there hasn't been a need to hold people accountable for going beyond what prosecutors ought to be doing. It was Justice Jackson, who was probably the greatest attorney general in our history, who once said that any prosecutor can rummage through statute books and find some technical crime to pin on almost anybody. So today it's Donald Trump. Tomorrow it's a Democrat that could be the target. And the day after tomorrow, it could be your Uncle Charlie or your niece or your nephew. If prosecutors want to get somebody, they have all the ability to weaponize the criminal justice system. And that's why people like us have to fight back. That's why I wrote my book, Get Trump. And I think the best form of protest against what is happening in New York is, go read my book and read the books of other people who are protesting this. Let them know that there's some accountability. That's why I write books, to hold people accountable, because you can't censor books. And history will have to account for what is going on here, because this really violates the spirit of the Constitution.
It does. And I really hope that we as an American society not only hold these malicious prosecutors accountable, but that history does look back on this era with disdain in terms of the specific political motivation to get Trump, as your book says, Alan Dershowitz. And you mentioned the 65 Project. I mean, they're the ones that my listeners will know filed the complaint against me as well. And I did nothing wrong, and ultimately ended up with a stipulation that just allowed me to keep my bar license. And of course, then what happens after that is the Democrats and the leftists, and other than, of course, present company of reasonable Democrats excluded from that, just try to, but it's actually a nonpartisan or a bipartisan group. There are actually never Trump Republicans on there too. So I shouldn't just say Democrats. I should say all of the people who want to politically weaponize against Trump, weaponized government against Trump lawyers, then they try to go and destroy our credibility. Because if they can't destroy us in our profession, which they've said, this is the motivation openly, then they'll just say, okay, well, because, you stipulated to this, or just because a complaint was filed, or whatever the reason, then they'll go out and they'll attack you. And you've even personally experienced that as well with disinvitations to various associations, and this kind of perception that any lawyer who would dare to represent Trump somehow is a bad lawyer, which I find mind-boggling, especially in my home state of Colorado, that a lot of the defense bar there, and certainly not everyone, is even upset at my own lawyer for representing me. So it's like, how far does this, how many degrees away from Trump do you have to get before you're finally somehow a lawyer in good standing as a defense lawyer? And this just goes against the fundamental notion that every single person, regardless of whether your name is Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or Jeffrey Epstein or anybody else, you are entitled to competent representation.
Yeah, and in my book, Get Trump, I have a whole chapter on Project 65. I have a chapter on this McCarthyist attack on lawyers, and it's spreading, and it spreads to social situations. My wife was working out in a gym, and somebody looked at her and said, "That's Alan Dershowitz's wife. We can't be in the same room with her." Or Caroline Kennedy, President Kennedy's daughter, who's now the ambassador to Australia, was seated next to me at a dinner party, and she said, "If I knew you had been invited, I wouldn't have come." This is an attack on a man who represented her uncle, Ted Kennedy, who worked closely with her other uncle, Robert Kennedy, and but she couldn't sit next to me because I had defended President Trump on the floor of the Senate, and I defended the Constitution on his behalf. So, it's a real attack on the Sixth Amendment, on the Constitution, and it's a return to McCarthyism. And whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, a liberal or conservative, you ought to be concerned about that. And I write about this whole attack extensively in my book, Get Trump, and I'm going to continue to write about it in columns and articles. I'm not going to be cowed by these McCarthyite threats because, if they can get Donald Trump, if they can get you, if they can get me, they can get anybody. And that's why we have to stand tall and fight back.
Absolutely. And we have to continue speaking truth. And in just the last about 2 minutes I have with you, Alan Dershowitz, and I really appreciate your perspective this morning. Where do you think all of this actually goes from here then in terms of the election and the upcoming battle between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, if whether it's Alan Bragg or it's Fani Willis in Fulton County or it's, Jack Smith out of Washington, D.C., all of these different grand juries, if somebody does ultimately indict Trump or there's a trio of this, how does this practically affect his campaign moving forward? Do you think that he gets stronger, or do you think that this actually hurts him long term?
Well, in my office, I have a mugshot picture of one of my favorite entertainers in history, Frank Sinatra, who I always have loved and always loved his songs. Now, that will be the second most prominent mugshot. If Donald Trump is arraigned and he is made a mugshot, his mugshot will be his campaign poster. It will be the most popular T-shirt worn. It will be portrayed all over the world, and it will help Donald Trump get elected. And that's certainly not something that Bragg wants to see happen. It's not something Democrats want to see happen. And so they ought to understand this is going to backfire. They're going to make a martyr out of him if they indict him, particularly for something that there's no basis for, and there's no basis for the New York indictment. I don't think there's a basis for the Georgia indictment. He said he wanted to find. He didn't say invent or concoct. Find. There's a dictionary definition of find. It means it's there. You have to just look hard for it. And what he was essentially saying was, there may be 13,000 uncounted actual votes in my favor, and I want you to look hard and see if there are any. That's a perfectly legitimate request. And I just don't think there's a basis for any prosecution. There is a basis for people having strong opinions both ways about Trump, and we ought to get the right to vote for him or, as I have done, against him. That's
100%. Well, my good friend Alan Dershowitz, really appreciate that, and we're so grateful that you are still advocating for the truth. You can get Alan Dershowitz's book, Get Trump, at Amazon or anywhere books are sold. We'll be right back with more.
With inflation, the banking world collapse, and everything that Joe Biden is doing not to protect America, you need to make sure to secure your financial health, especially in retirement. And hey, if you're a millennial like me, that actually is sooner than you think. You need to start now, even if you are a millennial or a Gen Zer, to make sure that your financial health is actually healthy when we get to retirement. And Legacy Precious Metals has a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in gold and silver online in real time. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped right to your door. You'll have access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar, and this puts you in complete control of your money. The platform is free to sign up for. Visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and against a volatile stock market. A truly diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but different asset classes. This brand new platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Visit legacypm.com to get started. You can download the free investor's guide, and you can also call Legacy PM Investments to talk to a portfolio expert to get expert answers to your to customize your personal portfolio. So visit legacypminvestments.com to get started. Tell them that Jenna sent you.
Have you ever picked up a towel set because it felt so soft in the store, but then when you leave and you go to use it, it's not really that absorbent? It's basically a towel that is leaving you out to dry. That's why MyPillow has developed the MyPillow towels that actually work. I know, it's totally mind-blowing. Towels that actually dry you. Their 6-piece towel set includes 2 bath towels, 2 hand towels, and 2 washcloths. They come in a variety of colors. I have the sage green and the white. I love them. And right now you can receive a 6-piece set for only $39.98 with promo code Jenna. That's JENNA. So go to mypillow.com right now and click on the radio listeners special. MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty and have a 60-day money-back guarantee. So to receive this amazing offer on the 6-piece towel set of MyPillow towels, just go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener special, and enter promo code Jenna, that's JENNA, or call 1-800-564-8475. That's mypillow.com, promo code Jenna.